Open the safe, and $100 million will be yours, the billionaire joked. But the poor girl surprised him in a way he never expected. Before we continue, please comment and tell us which city you are watching from. On the 42nd floor of the Chrysler Building, tension filled the air. Ferdowsa stared at the solid steel door of his private vault. For 3 hours, his team of the world's most expensive security experts had tried everything. They used advanced software, thermal scans, and even called the Swiss company that made the safe. Nothing worked. The electronic lock stayed closed. Inside the vault were millions of dollars and important business documents. Ferd needed them urgently. A major business merger deadline was only 2 hours away. "Sir, we have tried all normal methods," said Marcus, the lead technician. He wiped sweat from his face, even though the room was cold. His team of 5 experts stood silently. There, costly tools lay scattered across the marble floor, now useless. Ferdowsa, heir to one of the largest oil fortunes in the Middle East, felt helpless. At 38, he ruled boardrooms from Dubai to Wall Street. People feared and respected him. Yet now, a simple electronic lock made him look foolish in front of his own staff. The irony burned inside him. A man who could buy entire city blocks could not access his own safe. Outside the floor-to-ceiling windows, Manhattan was alive and glowing. Far below, another world existed. A world of struggle, hunger, and forgotten dreams. It was a world Ferd rarely saw, protected as he was by luxury cars, private elevators, and constant security. But today, those two worlds were about to meet. In the building's service corridors, a small figure moved quietly. She was driven by hunger and desperation. She carried with her a gift that would soon change both their lives. Her name was Harper Martinez. She had been homeless for 8 months after the foster care system failed her for the 3rd time. At just 10 years old, she had learned how to survive on the streets of New York. Her small size and innocent face helped her sometimes, but also put her in danger. People either ignored her or tried to take advantage of her. Today, hunger twisted painfully in her stomach. She had not eaten in 2 days. She survived only on water and rare kindness. The cold December wind cut through her thin jacket as she stood across the street, looking up at the Chrysler Building. Harper knew that office buildings often threw away good food. And the higher the floor, the better the leftovers. Using skills learned from other street kids, she slipped inside through a service entrance during a shift change. She moved quietly through the maze of corridors, her bare feet silent on the cold floor. Life on the streets had taught her how to read people, sense danger, and find chances where others saw none. The building's security was designed to stop adults, not a small child who could crawl through vents and squeeze into tight spaces. Harper also had a special gift. Technology made sense to her. Computers, phones, and electronic devices felt natural. At the public library, she taught herself programming and studied cybersecurity forums whenever she could. As she climbed higher through the service areas, she heard angry voices coming from an executive office. Curious, she pressed her ear to a metal panel. She heard words like encrypted, security breach, and deadline. Her stomach cramped again, reminding her why she was there. Maybe these rich men had leftover food. Maybe someone would help her. It was worth trying. Carefully, Harper found an air vent that led into the office. She had done this many times before. Adults were usually too busy to notice anything around them. She removed the vent cover and lowered herself into the most luxurious office she had ever seen. The walls held expensive artwork. The carpet was thick and soft. Everything looked like it belonged in a palace. But what caught her attention was a group of well-dressed men standing around a large steel safe. Their expensive tools lay scattered, clearly useless. Harper quickly understood the situation. They were struggling with an electronic lock system. She saw screens, wires, and circuit boards. Things she understood instinctively, even without formal training. The man in the center stood out. His suit was flawless. His presence demanded authority. Harper recognized him from news articles and building directories. This had to be Fard Alza. For a moment, Harper thought about leaving quietly, but hunger pushed her forward, and the challenge of the safe fascinated her. She stepped into the light. The room fell silent. 6 men turned and stared at her in shock. Security. "Breach!" Marcus shouted, reaching for his radio. "Wait," Fard said calmly, raising his hand. He studied the small girl with surprise and irritation. "How did you get in here?" Harper's stomach growled loudly before she could answer. She looked up at him without fear. "I'm hungry," she said simply. "I was looking for food." Then she glanced at the safe. "I can see you're having computer problems." Some of the technicians looked amused. Others looked offended. "This is a military-grade security system," Marcus said sharply. "You wouldn't understand. It's a modular double-guard system with quantum encryption." Harper interrupted. "The lock isn't broken." "That seems new." "Problem is a cascading authentication failure." The room froze. Even Fard stared in disbelief. "That's correct," whispered Dr. Chun, the cybersecurity expert flown in from Silicon Valley. "But how do you know this?" "I read," Harper said quietly. "Library computers are free. People talk about this stuff online." She paused, holding her stomach. "Give me some food, and I'll open the safe." Marcus laughed in disbelief. "Sir, this is ridiculous." "Give me food, and I'll open it," Harper repeated. Fard began to laugh too. The idea was absurd. A homeless child opening a safe his experts couldn't? His team laughed with him, but Harper didn't react. She had heard this laughter before. When the laughter faded, Fard wiped his eyes. "All right, little genius," he said. "If you open that safe, I'll give you $100 million. The number filled the room with disbelief. Harper didn't smile. She stepped toward the safe. "Deal." The room grew quiet as she examined the control panel. Up close, she noticed patterns the experts had missed. Flickering lights, repeating error codes, subtle sounds from inside the system. "This isn't an encryption failure," she said softly. "It's a timing problem." She explained calmly. The new biometric system was too fast for the old encryption software. Each login attempt looked like an attack, so the safe locked itself. Dr. Chen stared in shock. "She's right," he whispered. Harper nodded. "You don't need to break the lock. You need to sync the systems." She crouched near the base of the safe. "Every system has emergency rules," she said. "Something that forces access when lives are at risk." Fard watched her carefully. "And you think you can activate that?" "Maybe," Harper replied. "But first, what's inside this safe?" Fard hesitated. Then he answered honestly. "Legal documents. If this safe doesn't open, $3 billion Australian deal fails." Harper nodded slowly. "So this matters," she said. "Not just money, real lives." Fard nodded. "Thousands of jobs depend on it." And in that moment, the fate of empires rested in the hands of a hungry child. "Wait, that's why I hired the best security experts money can buy," Fard said. Harper slowly looked around the room. She saw the expensive machines, the highly trained specialists, and the luxury office that cost more than most people earned in a lifetime. Then she looked down at her torn clothes, her bare feet, and her empty stomach that had not had food for 2 days. "The best money can buy," she repeated softly. "But sometimes the best solutions don't come from money." She stood up, her decision clear. "Okay, I'm going to try something. But I need everyone to step back and let me work. No questions, No advice. No interruptions. These systems treat multiple inputs as security threats. The adults exchanged uneasy looks. Letting a homeless child touch equipment worth millions went against all logic, but they had no other options. And something about Harper's calm confidence made them believe she might succeed. If you break anything, Marcus started, then you'll be right where you are now, Harper finished. Locked out with a deadline you can't meet. The only difference is you'll have someone to blame who can't pay you back. Faird raised his hand, silencing his team. Let her do it. Harper moved toward the safe with careful focus. She worked like someone trained by experience, not textbooks. The adults stepped back, forming a half circle around her, watching quietly. Her hands hovered over the control panel. She didn't touch anything yet. She studied it deeply, like a chess player planning many moves ahead. The error codes kept repeating, reminding everyone of the failure around them. The emergency systems I mentioned, Harper said quietly, they're not in the manuals. Companies build them in for safety reasons, but they don't talk about them. Dr. Chun leaned forward, despite himself. How do you know about hidden systems like that? Harper gave a small smile, the first emotion she had shown. When you're homeless, you learn to find hidden things. Food behind restaurants, warm places to sleep. Systems are the same. She began working. Instead of touching the main control panel, she focused on other parts. Air sensors, battery backups, temperature systems. What are you doing? Marcus asked, unable to stay silent. I'm creating a controlled emergency, Harper replied. Security is important, but survival comes first. That rule overrides everything. She adjusted a small panel the experts had ignored. The temperature readings changed. Humidity alerts appeared. The safe began detecting danger to its internal systems. You're making it think it's in danger, Faird said, impressed. But won't that increase security? Only if the danger is external, Harper explained. If the system thinks it's failing internally, it prioritizes saving data over blocking access. Instead of breaking the safe, she was convincing it to lower its defenses on its own. Warning lights flashed. New alerts appeared. The system entered emergency mode, running programs that had not been used since installation. This is either genius or disaster, Marcus whispered. Both, Dr. Chen replied. If she's right, this is history. Harper's hands moved faster now. She adjusted several systems at once, carefully pushing the safe toward a tipping point. Temperature spiked. Power readings jumped. To the system, total failure seemed close. Now is the critical moment, Harper said quietly. I need the system to believe unlocking is the only way to save the data. She entered commands through the environmental controls, not the main. Lock. The error patterns changed. Alarms sounded for the first time. Emergency lights turned on inside the vault. Emergency data protection mode, Harper said. The system is choosing data over security. But then new problems appeared. Backup systems activated. Extra locks engaged. It's fighting back. Harper admitted. The emergency system is more complex than I thought. Sweat formed on her forehead. For the first time, doubt showed. The adults felt the shift. Faird checked his watch. 53 minutes left. Everything he had built now depended on a homeless child. Can you still do this? He asked gently. Harper looked at him. I don't. No, she said honestly. This is harder than anything I've done before. She paused. But I've never had $100 million depending on me either. She turned back to the panel. Despite being hungry, alone, and just 10 years old, Harper stood firm. She had survived by seeing solutions where others saw walls. The office filled with alarms and flashing lights. The elegant room now felt like a crisis control center. The problem is structural, Harper said clearly. The system has two brains fighting each other. Dr. Chun stepped closer. Security versus preservation. Exactly, Harper said. One says lock everything. The other says protect the data at all costs. The system is stuck. Marcus looked at it as useless. Equipment. So what do we do? Harper thought fast. Life on the streets had taught her that sometimes the answer isn't choosing a side. We don't fix the conflict, she said slowly. We push it further. Ferd frowned. Explain. Every system has a breaking point, Harper said. When contradictions become too extreme, it resets. She entered new commands. Conditions worsened. Errors spread. The conflict became unbearable for the system. You're forcing a full logic reset, Dr. Chun said. Stunned. Double quotes. Yes, Harper replied. The system will choose saving data over everything else. It was risky. One mistake could lock the safe forever. Ferd watched her with deep respect. Where did you learn to think like this? Foster care, Harper said quietly. When no one wants you, you learn fast. The room fell silent. Did they ever see how smart you are? Ferd asked. Harper shook her head. People see what they expect, not what's really there. And for the first time, the people in that room truly saw her. But there was something else in Harper's voice. A quiet strength. It showed that her experiences had made her stronger, not broken her. The safe systems reached a critical point. Warning messages flooded the screen faster than anyone could read. Emergency systems and security systems were now in direct conflict. The safe's programming could no longer solve the problem on its own. This is it, Harper said calmly. Her hands hovered over the final commands. In about 30 seconds, the system will have to choose. Either it keeps security active and risks losing all the data, or it protects the data and temporarily disables security. She looked at Ferd. Her blue eyes showed a level of maturity far beyond her age. But you need to understand something, she said. If this works, it's not luck. I earned this moment. Every night sleeping outside. Every day just trying to survive. Every hour in libraries teaching myself what schools never showed me. All of that led here. Ferd nodded slowly. He realized this was more than a technical victory. It was proof of human potential that had been ignored by broken systems. Understand, he said quietly. And no matter what happens next, you've already proven something important today. Harper smiled. It was the first real smile she had shown. Then she turned back and entered the final command. The screens went dark. Every warning light shut off. Every sound stopped. For a long moment, the massive safe sat in complete silence. Then, a soft electronic chime filled the room. The safe door clicked open. The sound echoed through the office like thunder. No one moved. The door stood slightly open. Harper remained still, breathing slowly, as if grounding herself after something impossible. Oh my God, Marcus whispered. She did it. A 10-year-old solved what 5 experts couldn't in 3 hours. Dr. Chun rushed forward. The system is unlocked. Security is suspended. Full data preservation mode is active. Ferd stayed seated, staring at Harper in awe. She stood in front of the open vault like a small hero against impossible odds. The documents, he said quietly. Are they safe? A technician opened the door fully. Inside, everything was perfect. Files, contracts, and legal papers were untouched. Everything is intact, the technician confirmed. Ferd stood slowly. A homeless child had just saved a multi-billion-dollar deal and shattered his understanding of intelligence. $100 million, he said. The room fell silent. You were joking, Harper said. I was, Ferd replied. But I'm not now. The weight of the number filled the room. Enough money to change lives. Enough to change systems. Harper didn't react with excitement. She studied Ferd carefully. Why? She asked. The question surprised everyone. Because you earned it, Ferd said. You solved a problem that saved billions. Harper shook her head. Those are business reasons. Paying that much for a few minutes of work doesn't make sense. She was right. Ferd nodded. Then here's the real reason. I see talent that every system failed to support. You're brilliant, capable, and underestimated. And you remind me that the greatest value often comes from places we ignore. He looked out the window at the streets below. I built my fortune by finding undervalued potential, he said. You're the most undervalued person I've ever met. And what do you want in return? Harper asked. Nothing, Ferd said honestly. This isn't control. It's recognition. The room was stunned. You know what this money means, Harper said quietly. It's power, influence. Are you really ready to give that to a homeless kid? Ferd studied her. Maybe that's exactly who should have it. Harper was silent for a long moment. If I accept, she said, I won't just help myself. I'll help kids like me. I expect nothing less, Ferd replied. She looked around the office, at wealth and power mixed with a city full of pain. I'll need help, she said. I know how to survive. I don't know how to manage this. That can be arranged, Ferd said. Advisors, education, support, no control over your choices. Harper nodded slowly. She walked toward the open safe, her bare feet quiet on the soft carpet. Before I answer, she said, touching the steel door, you need to understand what this means. She turned to the room. There are thousands of kids like me. Smart, talented, invisible. They don't fail. The system fails them. Dr. Chun leaned forward. You're talking about changing the system. Yes, Harper said. One person? Escaping poverty is a story. Helping others escape, that's change. Marcus asked softly, how would you do it? Education, Harper said, but not the kind that failed me. We need systems that recognize different intelligence, different experiences. She paced slowly. Some kids hack internet because they can't afford it. Some survive in ways that would impress soldiers. That's intelligence, too. Ferd watched in admiration. We also need paths to success that don't force kids to leave their communities. Harper continued. Instead of asking them to fit into our world, we should learn from theirs. The room was silent. I didn't think about it, Ferd said. I lived it. Harper replied. Dr. Chun whispered. Until now. Harper looked at Ferd again. That's why I need to know what you really expect. Because once I accept this, I'm responsible for more than myself. Ferd walked to his desk and picked up a pen. What if we make this formal? Ferd said. Not just a promise, but a contract. A contract that protects both your independence and your commitment to the values you're describing. What kind of contract? Harper asked. One that transfers the money to you with no conditions, Ferd explained. At the same time, it would create a foundation focused on finding and developing intelligence wherever it exists. You would control the foundation, set its priorities, and have full authority over how it operates. Harper studied his face carefully. My role would be advisory if you want it, Ferd continued. Financial support if you need it, but never control. All decisions would be yours. For the first time since opening the safe, Harper looked her age. The weight of the discussion, the size of the opportunity, and the pressure of representing so many others like her felt overwhelming. This is scary, she admitted quietly. A few hours ago, I was just trying to find food. Now you're talking about changing how society works. Marcus stepped forward. His earlier frustration was gone, replaced by real respect. "Maybe that's exactly why you're the right person," he said. "You remember what it feels like to be invisible, to be ignored, to have talent no one sees. And," Dr. Chen added, "you've shown that unconventional thinking can solve problems traditional methods cannot." Harper stayed silent for several minutes, thinking deeply. When she finally spoke, her voice was calm and thoughtful. "If I do this, I want to start small but meaningful," she said. "A pilot program that finds kids with non-traditional intelligence and gives them resources to grow, without forcing them to leave their communities or follow rigid academic systems." "How would you find these kids?" Ferd asked, genuinely curious. "The same way you found me," Harper replied. "By looking where people don't expect intelligence to exist. Homeless shelters, juvenile detention centers, foster care systems, inner-city schools that society has already given up on." She continued, "And by recognizing problem-solving skills, not just grades or test scores." Harper walked to the window and looked down at the streets of Manhattan. For the first time, she didn't see only struggle and survival. She saw untapped potential. "I want to prove that brilliance exists everywhere," she said. "Not just in wealthy or privileged places. And I want to build paths that celebrate different types of intelligence instead of forcing everyone into the same mold." Ferd joined her at the window. "That's ambitious," he said. "Even revolutionary." "It has to be," Harper replied. "Small changes aren't enough when the basic assumptions are wrong." Her reflection in the glass showed someone far older than 10. She had been changed not only by opportunity, but by realizing her power to create change. "So," she said, turning back to the room, "let's talk about the details of this contract, because I think we're about to change lives." The adults exchanged looks. They understood they were no longer dealing with a homeless child who solved a technical problem. They were facing a new leader who understood both system failure and real transformation. The next hour would decide whether this moment became just a story or the start of something that could change how society discovers and develops human potential. That hour turned Ferd's office from a crisis center into a planning room for social change. Harper accepted the offer, but with conditions that surprised everyone. She wasn't thinking only about her future. She was designing a system to find and develop overlooked intelligence. "I want the foundation structured so academic degrees are not required for leadership roles," Harper said as Ferd's legal team joined by video call. "Some of the smartest people I know never finished high school, but they understand systems and human behavior better than most experts." The lawyers exchanged glances. Harper noticed immediately. Foster care had taught her how to read adult expressions. "I know what you're thinking," she said to the lead lawyer. "A 10-year-old wanting to hire people without degrees sounds naive. But think about this. I just solved a problem that 5 highly educated experts couldn't. Maybe the issue isn't my understanding of qualifications, but your definition of them." The lawyer Marcus Brennan paused his notes. "That's a fair point," he said. "What qualifications would you suggest instead?" "Proven problem-solving ability," Harper replied. "Creative thinking with limited resources. Real experience working with people traditional systems have failed. And most importantly, a true commitment to finding intelligence in unexpected places, not just protecting existing power structures." Dr. Chen began taking notes. "You're describing a merit system based on results, not credentials." He sighed. "That's very smart, but difficult to apply." "Anything worth doing is difficult," Harper said. "If it were easy, someone would have done it already." Ferd watched in amazement. In just a few hours, Harper had shown technical skill beyond experts and was now challenging how institutions were built. "Tell me more about the pilot program," he said. "How would it actually work?" Harper's face lit up. It was the first time she looked excited. Street outreach, but not the usual kind, she said. Instead of only offering help, we look for signs of intelligence people ignore. She moved to the whiteboard and began drawing with confidence. Kids who find free Wi-Fi where it shouldn't exist. Kids who create systems to avoid authority. Kids who understand complex family or street dynamics. Kids who teach themselves skills because school failed them. Her diagrams were simple but powerful, showing how different abilities could grow through the right support. The adults realized they were watching thinking as advanced as most graduate-level work. The key, Harper said, is understanding that intelligence adapts. A kid focused on survival may struggle in school, not because they're less capable, but because their intelligence is being used elsewhere. This would take major resources, Marcus from the legal team said. Have you thought about logistics? Constantly, Harper replied. That's why this foundation must fund real programs, not just symbolic efforts. Systemic problems need systemic solutions. She added numbers and budget estimates to the board. Outreach teams in 5 cities. Custom assessment tools. Mentorship from people who succeeded despite similar struggles. Education that adapts to different lives and learning styles. Faird was impressed by both her vision and her planning. You've thought about this deeply, he said, especially for someone who learned about these resources only an hour ago. I've been thinking about these solutions my whole life, Harper said. I just never had the chance to act on them. Dr. Chun asked, what about resistance? People benefit from the current system. Harper nodded. Double quotes, there will be resistance. She said, people who built careers on gatekeeping won't want to admit they miss talent. Institutions that profit from limited opportunity won't welcome change. She paused and looked around the room. But that's why this matters. When systems keep failing to recognize talent, the problem isn't the people, it's the system. And systems can be changed with enough resources and determination. The legal team returned with early contract terms. We've structured the foundation as an independent organization, Marcus said. Harper will have full decision-making authority, supported by a board she chooses. The initial funding would be the full $100 million. Mr. Alzar would have no control over daily operations or long-term decisions. What about accountability? Harper asked. How do we make sure the foundation actually achieves its mission instead of becoming another slow, ineffective organization? Her question showed another level of her thinking. She wasn't focused only on receiving money. She wanted to protect it from being wasted or misused over time. We use performance metrics, Faird said. Clear, measurable results that show real impact, not just good intentions. Yes, Harper agreed. And regular evaluations by the communities we serve, not only by universities or wealthy donors. As the afternoon passed, the true scale of their plan became clear. This was not just a generous gift to one child. It was a direct challenge to how society identified, developed, and supported human potential. Harper's mix of lived experience, sharp analysis, and long-term thinking was creating something entirely new. There's one more thing, Harper said, as the contract talks neared the end. I want documentation and research to be part of the foundation's work. We need proof that this approach works, and we need to share what we learn so others can improve on it. Academic research? Dr. Chun asked. Yes, Harper said, but also clear communication for people who don't read academic journals. The kids we help, their families, and local organizations need to understand that intelligence has many forms, and their experiences matter. The sun set over Manhattan as they finalized the agreement. That evening changed Harper from a homeless child into one of the youngest philanthropic leaders in history. But more importantly, they were building proof that intelligence was not rare or limited to privilege. It was human potential waiting to be seen. Are you ready for this responsibility? Ferd asked as the final papers were prepared. Harper looked out at the city lights. Somewhere below were thousands of children like her. Smart, resourceful, invisible. I've been ready my whole life, she said quietly. I just didn't know it until today. 6 months later, Harper stood before a packed auditorium at Columbia University. She was about to deliver the keynote speech at the National Conference on Educational Innovation. The moment felt unreal. 1 year earlier, she had been sleeping on the streets and searching for food. Now she was speaking to the most powerful educators and policymakers in the country. But this was more than her personal success. The Harper Foundation had already supported 847 children with exceptional abilities in difficult circumstances. The pilot program exceeded expectations. They found math prodigies in juvenile detention centers, engineering geniuses in homeless shelters, strategic thinkers in foster care systems across 5 major cities. Ladies and gentlemen, Harper began, her voice calm and confident. I want to tell you about Maria Rodriguez. She told the story of a girl who built a water purification system from junkyard materials because her family lacked clean water. Then she spoke about James Chun, who created an app to help homeless people find safe places to sleep after spending years on the streets himself. She told them about Asisha Williams, who redesigned a food bank system because she understood hunger in ways books never could. The room was silent. These children weren't discovered through test scores or standard exams. They were found because someone looked where others saw only problems. In the front row, Ferd watched with pride. The child he once met during a crisis now commanded the attention of the nation's top thinkers. But tonight, Harper continued, I want to ask a bigger question. What happens when society fails to recognize intelligence because it appears in unexpected places? She showed data that shocked the audience. Talented children with no opportunities. Strong links between poverty and blocked education. Systems that rejected unconventional brilliance. We lose innovation, she said. We waste human potential. We confuse privilege with intelligence and obedience with ability. The audience shifted uneasily. Harper knew her words were reaching the assumptions that allowed inequality to continue. The Harper Foundation has proven that intelligence exists everywhere, she said. Our young innovators are solving problems institutions struggled with for decades because their experiences gave them unique insight. She paused. So my question is this. Are you ready to change how your institutions work? Are you willing to look for intelligence where you've ignored it? Are you ready to admit that some of your gatekeeping has blocked the very innovation we need most? The silence was heavy. If you are, Harper continued, we are ready to work with you. We'll help you find overlooked talent. We'll share our assessment tools. We'll support young people whose brilliance doesn't fit traditional molds. She looked into the camera, and if you're not ready, ask yourself this. How many more ideas will we lose? How many brilliant minds will we waste before we accept the truth? Intelligence is not rare. It exists everywhere. It only needs recognition and opportunity. The standing ovation lasted 7 minutes. 2 years later, Harper stood in a rebuilt community center in Detroit. She watched a 12-year-old boy explain an urban farming system made from recycled materials and solar panels. Around them, dozens of young innovators showed solutions for housing, energy, and food distribution. Ferd arrived for the quarterly review. These visits were no longer about oversight. They were about witnessing real change. The foundation now worked in 15 cities. It had supported more than 2,000 young innovators and influenced education policy in 3 countries. Any regrets? Ferd asked. Harper smiled. Only that it took so long to start. The numbers told the story. Over 100 patents, dozens of successful businesses, real solutions where systems had failed. But the real success was deeper. Schools changed how they identified talent. Foster care systems adopted new assessments. Even juvenile centers began recognizing hidden intelligence. As the event ended, Harper addressed the young innovators. 2 years ago, most of you were invisible, she said. Today, you're proving that brilliance exists everywhere. It's not about where you come from, she continued. It's about how you think, how you solve problems, and how you help others. The Harper Foundation had become more than an organization. It became proof that change is possible when society rethinks human potential. Harper Martinez changed the world because someone saw potential where others saw poverty. Right now, somewhere near you, there is another Harper, a brilliant child waiting to be seen. The question isn't whether they exist. The question is whether you will recognize them. Share this story. Look differently. Demand better. And don't let the next Harper remain invisible.